It was supposed to be a routine panel on national television, a high-profile discussion on government accountability, ethics, and public trust. The moderator introduced the guests, former Attorney General Bill Barr, a longtime Republican heavyweight, and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, the rising Democratic star known for her sharp intellect and fearless style. Tensions were already simmering before the cameras rolled. Barr had made it clear off-camera that he planned to correct some narratives. Crockett, cool and composed, simply said, "Let's give the people the truth." As the lights dimmed and the red "Live" light blinked on, no one could have predicted what was coming. Barr leaned into his mic with a smirk. "Frankly, Congresswoman Crockett has made a career out of dramatizing issues she barely understands. It's easy to yell. Harder to govern." The moment was thick with anticipation. Jasmine didn't flinch. She folded her hands calmly, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "That's rich coming from a man who misled the American people on national investigations while hiding behind legal jargon." The audience went silent. The gloves were off. Bill Barr chuckled dismissively, trying to brush off Jasmine's pointed remark. "With all due respect, Congresswoman, you're speaking out of turn. I was there. You weren't. You're basing your views on partisan headlines, not real facts." Crockett raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "You mean the same facts you summarized in a 4-page letter that misrepresented the entire Mueller report?" she fired back. "The same letter that federal judges later said was misleading to the public?" Barr's face tightened. The moderator shifted in his seat, clearly caught off guard by how fast this was escalating. "Let's stick to the topic," the moderator tried to interject. But Jasmine wasn't finished. "The topic is truth. The topic is credibility," she snapped. "And I'm not going to sit here and let the man who ran interference for a president under investigation lecture me about integrity." The crowd in the studio began murmuring, some even applauding. Barr looked rattled for the first time. He leaned forward. "You're twisting the law to fit a narrative," he said, voice rising. "You want headlines. I want justice." Crockett smiled, not out of smugness, but with the confidence of someone ready to drop the receipts. "Oh, I'm glad you brought up justice," she said coolly. "Because I brought the receipts. And they're straight from the Department of Justice itself." Jasmine Crockett reached into the folder she had quietly brought onto the set, a thick stack of documents she had meticulously prepared. "Since Mr. Barr insists I'm misinformed," she said, holding up a highlighted DOJ memo, "let's review what federal judges said about his conduct." She read aloud, "The Attorney General distorted the findings of the special counsel in a way that confused the public and undermined confidence in the investigation." The moderator's eyes widened. The studio fell into a hushed silence. Barr tried to cut in, those remarks were taken, out of context. Jasmine interrupted sharply. "I'm quoting the court. Directly. You can look it up, unless you think the judiciary is part of some grand conspiracy too." Barr stiffened in his seat. "This is a smear tactic. Personal attacks won't change the facts." "Exactly," Crockett nodded. "And the facts are that you misled the American people, then went on television pretending to be a neutral arbiter of law. So let's not pretend this is about truth. It's about power. And your desperate attempt to rewrite history." The moderator sat back, stunned. The control room whispered through headsets. Barr's face was visibly flushed now. He turned toward the camera and took a deep breath. "I stand by my decisions," he muttered. "And I have nothing to hide." Crockett leaned in just slightly, voice calm but loaded with precision. "Good," she said. "Because I'm just getting started." Bill Barr straightened in his chair, visibly rattled but trying to regain control. "You're cherry-picking, Congresswoman. I made difficult decisions during a chaotic administration. I upheld the law." Jasmine Crockett didn't even blink. "No," she replied coolly, "you manipulated public perception to protect political power. That's not law, that's loyalty. And not to the Constitution." Barr clenched his jaw. You weren't in the room. You don't know what pressure looks like when the weight of a nation is on your shoulders. Crockett shot back instantly. I may not have been in your room, Mr. Barr, but I've been in plenty where powerful men tried to gaslight the public under the guise of duty. She leaned forward, holding up a timeline chart that the studio now displayed on the screen behind them. It showed the exact dates Barr released his infamous letter, and how public opinion dramatically shifted before the full Mueller report was even made public. You created a media narrative weeks before Americans had access to the truth. You told them the report exonerated the president, even when the report itself said it did not. Barr looked toward the moderator, seeking backup. Surely we can agree, but the moderator raised a hand gently. Let her finish. Crockett continued, I don't care about your politics, Mr. Barr. I care about accountability. You used your position to shield wrongdoing, and now you want to rewrite that story like no one kept receipts. But this is 2025. We have eyes. We have facts. And I promise you, America is paying attention. The audience burst into quiet applause. Barr sat back in his chair, stone-faced. For the first time in the segment, he had no comeback. Bill Barr sat motionless for a beat, the applause still echoing faintly through the studio. His eyes flicked toward the camera, then back to Jasmine Crockett, who remained composed, assertive, and unbothered. I didn't come here to be ambushed, Barr said finally, his tone lower, more defensive. This isn't an ambush, Crockett replied. This is called accountability. You should be familiar with it, you were the Attorney General. Barr tried to regain control. Look, I've served under 2 presidents. I've made tough calls. I've faced bipartisan criticism. But I did what I believed was right. Crockett nodded slowly, then delivered the dagger. And when the truth contradicted your version of what's right, you buried it. You sanitized it. You spun it for TV. That's not courage, Mr. Barr. That's cowardice in a suit. The crowd gasped. Even the moderator leaned slightly forward, caught between the unfolding spectacle and his duty to moderate. Barr scoffed. You're grandstanding. Crockett looked straight into the camera. No, I'm fact-standing. And if that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you shouldn't have distorted the facts in the first place. The director flashed to a split screen, Barr, visibly cornered, on one side, Crockett, laser-focused, on the other. Barr's voice was shaky now. You weren't in my position. No, Jasmine replied sharply. But I am in a position now. And I won't let people like you rewrite the record just because you're uncomfortable being reminded of it. The audience applauded again, louder this time. Barr exhaled, leaned back, and muttered, this is a political show, not a real debate. Crockett's eyes narrowed. No, Mr. Barr. You made it political when you turned the Department of Justice into a shield instead of a sword. Bill Barr's hands were now clasped tightly in his lap. The usual confidence, the smug certainty he was known for, had faded. He tried to smile, but it didn't land. It's easy to throw stones when you've never had to make life-or-death decisions, he said, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. You don't know what it's like to sit in that chair. Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. You're right, she said calmly. I've never sat in that chair, but I've stood before the people who were affected by the decisions made in it. And I never once lied to them. I never once twisted their reality to protect someone powerful. She turned again to the camera. This country is tired of leaders who play games with the truth. It's tired of lawyers who weaponize language to protect corruption. Mr. Barr wasn't just silent during the chaos, he was the voice giving cover to it. Barr tried one last time to pivot. So what's your point, Congresswoman? That I should have leaked the report in full? Violated protocol? Betrayed my oath? Jasmine leaned in, her tone firm but measured. No, my point is that you already betrayed your oath, the moment you decided to protect a president instead of protecting the law. Gasps. The moderator looked stunned. That's a serious accusation, Barr shot back. So was obstructing justice, she replied. And yet, you helped sanitize it for the public. The screen behind them now flashed with quotes from legal scholars, former DOJ officials, and judges, all condemning Barr's handling of the Mueller report and his role in misrepresenting its findings. These aren't my words, Jasmine said, pointing behind her. They're the words of your peers. Your profession. The ones who did read the full report, and didn't try to bury it. Barr was silent. The audience? Dead quiet. Waiting. And Crockett? Calm. Poised. Unshakable, Bill Barr adjusted his tie, clearly uncomfortable but not ready to walk away. His voice hardened. You're turning this into a spectacle. I came here to discuss the legal system, not to be dragged through the mud over political grievances. Jasmine Crockett responded with piercing clarity. This isn't about politics, Mr. Barr. This is about truth. You keep calling it a spectacle because you're not used to someone challenging you with facts, in real time, without fear. Barr leaned forward, trying to reassert control. You act as if I had total autonomy. There were limitations, guardrails, Crockett cut in smoothly. And you chose to ignore them when it suited your interests. She opened another document and held it up. Let's talk about your role in clearing Lafayette Square for a photo op, peaceful protesters gasped. Rubber bullets fired. All so the president could hold a Bible upside down. And you claimed it had nothing to do with politics. Barr's eyes narrowed. I stand by the decision. It was necessary for security. Crockett didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Security, she repeated. The federal judge who reviewed that incident said it was a gross misuse of power. That it violated constitutional rights. You were warned internally. You overruled them. You turned law enforcement into a prop for propaganda. Barr paused, clearly unsure how to respond. You can hide behind legalese all you want, she continued, but history doesn't forget. And neither do the people who were there, coughing, bleeding, terrified, while you stood at the podium defending it all. The moderator was now silent, letting it all play out. The audience leaned in, some stunned, some nodding, others shaking their heads. Barr spoke softly now, visibly worn down. I believed I was protecting the institution. Crockett's reply was devastating. You weren't protecting the institution. You were protecting the man tearing it apart. Bill Barr looked visibly shaken now. His once commanding presence had crumbled under the weight of Jasmine Crockett's relentless precision. You don't understand what it's like, he muttered. Trying to hold together an entire system while everything around you is falling apart. Jasmine gave him a moment. Then she leaned in, voice low but cutting. You think I don't understand pressure, she said. Try being a black woman in Congress fighting for truth in a room full of men who'd rather see you silenced. A ripple of applause swept through the audience. But here's the difference between you and me, Mr. Barr, she continued. When I'm under pressure, I lean on truth. You leaned on spin. She tapped the folder in front of her. Every time you stepped in front of a microphone, you weren't clarifying, you were controlling. You weren't upholding the law, you were editing it for public consumption. Barr looked at her, then the camera. He tried one final pivot. History will judge me fairly. Crockett didn't miss a beat. It already is. The screen behind them changed again, now showing recent polling data and public trust scores in DOJ leadership during Barr's tenure. The numbers weren't flattering. The people saw through the smokescreen, Jasmine added. And no matter how many times you try to rewrite the script, the facts won't change. The damage is done, but so is the reckoning. The audience burst into thunderous applause this time, a wave of approval that seemed to hit Barr like a wall. He looked down. Silent. Outmatched. And, finally, Exposed. For several long seconds, Bill Barr said nothing. The former Attorney General, once a towering figure in Washington's legal world, now sat quiet, eyes down, jaw clenched, the lights of the studio glaring off his glasses. The silence was deafening. Jasmine Crockett didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She simply waited. Then, breaking the tension, she spoke, steady, clear, unshaken. "This isn't personal, Mr. Barr. It's historical. When people in power twist the truth to protect the powerful, it must be challenged. Because if we let it slide, even once, it becomes the new standard." She turned again to the moderator. "And let's be clear, this isn't about party lines. It's about public trust. It's about whether the Department of Justice serves the Constitution, or just the highest bidder." The moderator finally found his voice. "Congresswoman Crockett, many viewers at home are stunned by what's unfolded here. Can you tell them why this moment matters?" Jasmine turned to the camera. "Because democracy doesn't collapse all at once, it erodes in moments just like this. Quiet deals. Misleading memos. Press conferences full of half-truths. And the public, kept in the dark, slowly losing faith." She paused. "Today, we shine a light. Because the truth isn't always polite, but it's always necessary." The camera cut back to Barr. Still no response. He knew it was over. Not his career, but the illusion. The polished, untouchable version of himself he had so carefully maintained had just been torn apart, not with insults, but with irrefutable facts. And the whole country saw it happen live. The segment wrapped moments later, but the energy in the studio didn't fade. If anything, it intensified. Staff whispered behind cameras. The moderator tried to steer the conversation to a closing note, but the damage had already been done. Bill Barr stood slowly, adjusting his suit jacket like it could somehow hold together what had just unraveled. He extended a hand toward Jasmine out of formality, not confidence. She looked at it, then met his eyes, and shook it without a word. The message was clear: respect the person. Never the deceit. As the panel went off air, media outlets were already reacting. Within minutes, clips from the exchange flooded social media. Jasmine Crockett just ended Bill Barr's legacy. Live. Crockett exposes the DOJ's dirty secrets on national TV. Bill Barr's face says it all. Hashtags like hashtag Crockett Clash, hashtag Barr Exposed, and hashtag Truth Over Spin were trending in under 15 minutes. Even political commentators who were usually cautious couldn't ignore what had just unfolded. One tweet from a centrist analyst read, "That wasn't just a takedown, it was a masterclass in accountability." Barr had no answers. Crockett had receipts. Backstage, a staffer asked Jasmine, "Did you know it would go like that?" She simply replied, "I didn't come to perform. I came to correct the record." Meanwhile, Barr left through a side door, avoiding reporters and eye contact. The panel may have ended, but the conversation it sparked was only beginning. By the next morning, the political world was on fire. Major news networks played clips of the exchange on a loop. Analysts debated every word. Conservative outlets scrambled to do damage control, while progressive commentators hailed Jasmine Crockett's performance as historic. Headlines read, "Crockett eviscerates Barr with DOJ receipts, live TV meltdown, Barr left speechless after brutal fact-check." Jasmine Crockett just redefined congressional accountability, even typically nonpartisan editorial boards weighed in. The Washington Post released an op-ed titled, "Truth on Trial, Why Jasmine Crockett's Takedown of Bill Barr Matters More Than You Think." Republicans were divided. Some doubled down on Barr's legacy, while others privately admitted he looked unprepared and outdated. A few GOP aides even leaked texts showing lawmakers reacting in real time, "She's lighting him up. He came in smug and left exposed. Never seen Barr this off balance." Meanwhile, Crockett's name exploded across social media platforms. Her follower count surged. Clips of her quotes were turned into viral sound bites and TikToks, one video had over 18 million views in under 12 hours. Young voters in particular embraced her. Finally, someone who doesn't just talk, she brings the facts and the fire. Back in Washington, several Democratic leaders called Crockett personally. "You didn't just hold him accountable," one senior senator said. "You made the whole system blink." As for Bill Barr, he remained quiet. No public statements. No follow-up interviews. His spokesperson issued a brief email, "Mr. Barr stands by his record." But for many Americans watching, the damage wasn't just to his record, it was to his reputation. And Jasmine Crockett? She wasn't finished yet. The buzz didn't fade after 24 hours, it grew. Jasmine Crockett wasn't just trending anymore. She was being studied, quoted, and emulated. That night, she appeared on a late-night news show where the host opened with, "Congresswoman Crockett, you didn't just hold Bill Barr accountable, you held the entire institution to the fire." What was going through your mind? She smiled calmly. That truth should never be treated like an attack. If the facts make someone uncomfortable, the issue isn't the facts, it's what they did. Audiences around the country applauded her poise, her preparation, and most of all, her courage to say what others wouldn't. Meanwhile, political insiders began referring to the event as the Crockett correction. In private circles, strategists started telling their clients, "If you're walking into a panel with her, bring more than talking points." In schools, debate coaches used clips from the exchange to teach the difference between emotional rhetoric and evidence-based argument. Professors called it a defining moment in modern political discourse. Even some Republicans, off the record, admitted, "Whatever your politics, she ran that table." As for Barr, he canceled 2 upcoming public appearances. A memoir he had quietly been preparing was shelved. His legacy, already complicated, now carried a public asterisk. But Jasmine didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Instead, in a follow-up interview, she simply said, "I didn't go after a man. I went after a pattern, one where the truth is bent until it breaks. That era is over. The receipts are here. And we're not backing down." That line echoed for days. And just like that, a new standard was set, not just for political debates, but for accountability itself.